Welcome to the Bayonet's Countdown to November, a series of interviews with the candidates in the November. With me for this segment is Hart. Mike is Republican. He's running in Calvert County's first election district for county commissioner. His opponent is Democrat Imad Didas. Mike, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Tell us why you've chosen to run for county commissioner.
Well, I've been a resident of Calvert for 37 years, and I have a wife and 2 children. I have a 5-year-old and a 13-year-old. The drugs have gone uncontrolled in my community. It's a problem across the state, but right now we're almost trying to address it with a we're figuring it out mentality, and I don't think there's a lot of time for that. I think we need to know what we're going to do to address this. We need to do it quickly. We're losing, and we can no longer lose anymore. And I think with the business background that I have, to fight this, part of it's going to be monetarily, to beef up what we need to, and I'm hoping I can bring a business approach to, number one, helping Calvert get financially where it needs to be to fight this, but 2, that business type of mentality of we don't need to study it, analyze it too long, we need to start doing something about it.
Mm-hmm. So you don't see this as strictly a law enforcement or medical community situation?
No, it's all hands on deck. You know, like any business situation, with this you have a supply and demand. With your supply, that's your officers. That's your officers being equipped, having everything they need to be successful, to going to go run it out of the various places where it's at. But it's also on the community side where these are our children, our family members. We need to work on the demand piece. We need to have in place a place for them to go. Locking someone up for a month, turning them back loose, telling them that they have to do a urine test and go to counseling for a month, 2 months, it's not working. It's obvious it's not working. If you talk to the officers out there, they're making arrests of the same people over and over again. That approach does not work. That might have worked for an alcoholic or something like that, but this issue here is something we have been prepared for. When somebody's coming in the emergency room, they're dead when they've overdosed. They're dead. They have no vitals, they can't breathe on their own, they can't do anything. We've had to adapt to giving them what's called Narcan, a medical shot, and excuse me if I'm not great on medical terminology, to stop these opiates from flowing. Once they stop, the breathing comes back, the brain activity comes back. The patient, once it gets to a level of consciousness, is back out looking for it again. If death didn't scare you, being in a cell doesn't scare you at all from this. When they have got to that point that even death isn't a factor, being locked up for a month or 2 means nothing. So that's where the demand piece comes on us as a society. The education, how dangerous this is. It's not a drink. It's much more deadly. It's out of control. Needs to be addressed just as when I was a child, just say no, how drinking driving was approached, seatbelts. We didn't wear seatbelts when I was a kid. You know, that type of all hands on to where there is no mistake. This is death. It's unacceptable. It's got to stop.
Okay. You've outlined that as a big issue. What issues do you believe the next board is going to need to address?
Well, down District 1 where I'm at, it's a real hotbed. That District 1, for folks don't know, that's Solomon's up to about St. Leonard. Solomon's has the usual parking. Their businesses struggle in the wintertime. There's a lot of mentality that once September, October comes, there's no reason to go down to Solomon's. We need to make that mentality change, where those businesses can have a stronger winter. The parking issue is always an issue down there. I'd like to see us purchase a parking lot somewhere maybe a little bit up from the island, somewhere around that Roy Rogers area and there, to run some type of bus, free of service, that can run back and forth. Even make it a fun type bus, island hopper or whatever on it, to where you don't have to say, I was going to go down to such and such restaurant, but I know it's packed, it's 6 o'clock. They're not packed inside. They just don't have the parking facility to address it. So I think that's an issue there. The Ranch Club or Chesapeake Ranch Estates, they've talked municipality. I think there's a lot of work that's going to go into that. Those people are very frustrated. If you're not familiar with it, they have an STD in place, special tax district.
Right.
They have HOA fees. They have their own struggles with roads, plowing, this, that, and the other. So that's where that's come up, and so that's going to be something to talk about. And if they choose not to go municipality, or if they feel that it's maybe not right for them, then we're going to have to explore other avenues to fix it. But to continually keep charging someone to pay for their road, and then to pay for other folks' roads that don't even live there. I mean, that's the thing there, it's a double dip. They pay for their road, but then they pay the regular property taxes as well. We're just paying for someone else's road. So that's got to be addressed. You keep moving up, Dominion comes in. I've lived there 37 years, almost 38. That area's never been divided. When I grew up in Drum Point, one bus picked up Drum Point, Ranch Club, and Cove Point. We all rode the same bus. We didn't have race problems. We didn't have class problems. None of those things. There wasn't that many of us. You couldn't let stupid things like that get in the way. You wanted to play with your buddy across the street? You played with him. This is the first time that we've ever had an issue this big where people either adamantly are against the project or extremely happy for the project. It hasn't been a lot of middle ground, so there's a lot of wounds to heal. There's a lot of information to still get out there. There's a lot of things to still address. It's going to be huge. And as you start moving up to White Sands, they've got issues there as well. You know, they've had, you know, roads, and we're all affected by crime down in District 1. Goes back to the drug piece. You know, it's not so much just using the drugs, generating the money. They're not breaking in, stealing TVs. It's quick hits. Pawn shop's never been so full. So we're going to have a lot of issues, especially right down in my area. Countywide, obviously, we've got the middle school property. We've got the TDR program. We've got this next board has some serious challenges ahead of it.
Okay. Mike, what are your budget priorities?
Well, it goes right back to the first piece I talked. Drugs are ruining everything. It's cancer in that budget. The ambulances are running more calls. The police are running more calls. The jails are more. This is all money that should be going to anything else besides this. After school programs, more education in the schools. We need jobs here. I mean, career type jobs. You know, we need to bring in complementary businesses. We got the Patuxent Business Park sitting there that was designed years ago to actually bring career jobs in. It's a shame that you can be born and raised in Calvert County, but you can't stay. So much of our population now is leaving. For a kid to make a minimum wage job, a lot of times he's driving across to St. Mary's County, down in lower parties. I mean, to leave your town for a minimum wage job. So we need to bring complementary type businesses. We only have one road, so we have to be very aware of that, you know, we can only handle and support but so much. But complementary business, when I say that where you'll see 12 of the same type business. It's pretty much ineffective. The pie is only so big. There's only so much to go to the one thing. If you've got 12 of the one thing, well, let's find what we need to help those be successful, to create even those types of levels of jobs. And those would help small business as well. I mean, if people are staying in town, maybe they're shopping in town. We've got a huge gorilla in the room with the employee salaries. County employees are upset. And I like to say county employees. I don't like to say teachers, officers, or just government workers across the board. Extremely upset with their STEP program, with their salaries. A lot of it's been frozen for years. So there's a lot of budget issues, and you can go all day on this, but we've got to start making money. You know, at home, if you make $1,000 a month and your bills are $1,100, and you've cut everything you can cut, you've got two choices. Go out and get a different job to bring some other streams of revenue in. Go back to your boss and ask for more money. Well, our bosses are taxpayers. They don't have it. You can't go back to them and say, hey, we need more taxes. They're being property tax. The property taxes they're paying now are on homes that won't even sell for that. So it's pretty hard to go back to somebody and go, you know, well, you're basing my taxes on $300,000, but I can't sell it for that. So we can't go back to our boss for that. So now what are we going to do to get other streams of revenue? Comes back to complementary business. Comes back to maybe you have to spend a little bit of money on treatment facilities, on drug programs. But on the long end, we're not arresting the same people. On the long end, we're not tying up jail cells. So it's going to be a very challenging next 4 years.
Do you believe there's true transparency in county government? And if you don't, what would you do to fix that situation?
That's a yes and no. True transparency means every single decision, everything you do is somewhere for someone to view or see. The Dominion project brings that right up. You can go back to Dominion all day, especially with that. Do I feel there was true transparency on Dominion? No, absolutely not. There was a lot of decisions and back and forth talk, and And I didn't sit in there, so please understand this is my perception. I didn't sit in on that. I believe it could have been a lot more transparent. I believe it should have been handled a lot more public intervention up front. But coming back to something like, hey, we want to open up a 7-Eleven, I don't need to have community forums for small things. You put leaders in there to lead, to make decisions. But things that are life-changing for a community need to be completely wide open.
Okay. Do you feel Maryland's jurisdictions are being handed too many unfunded mandates from the state? And what, in your opinion, if you do feel that way, what, in your opinion, does Calvert County need to do to assert its autonomy?
Maryland's trying to approach a cookie cutter approach for the state. In some areas where, if you're in farmland USA, and it's nothing but farms, maybe you could do that, where pretty much the guy on the left issues the same on the right, but you take Maryland, so diverse. You've got cities, you've got rural, you've got suburbs. That approach just doesn't work across the board. I understand it, makes it easy, but to me it's a lazy approach to say, well, this is how we do it, and we're going to make every size fit all, and that just doesn't happen. So we need a very good working relationship with our delegates, with our senators, to understand that, hey, as Calvert County, this is not working for us, but let's just not complain about it. Let's do the work. Let's do the homework. Let's come up and say, hey, see, this is why it doesn't work here. This is what we've done. This is what we've shown to you. This is why, in our circumstance, it doesn't work. We can't speak to the other part of the state, but for us, you're harming us with this. And make it a case. Do the work. Prove it to the state officials why they're harming us. Put it in their lap and give them an opportunity to address it instead of just complaining. Complaining after a while just sounds like nails on a chalkboard. You just want it to shut up.
Okay. Mike, thank you so much for
thank you for having me.
Being our guest today. Best of luck to you along the campaign trail.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mike Hart, he's a Republican running for county commissioner in Calvert County's 1st election district. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Countdown to November. I'm Marty Mann.